I guess to start off, I guess my first question is, when did you realize that this event was in jeopardy?
I really didn't think it was gonna be canceled or in jeopardy. I mean, so I didn't get the news till like yesterday. It was like 11:15-ish. Um, yeah. Okay. The lead up to it was like it was like there had been like murmurings like, oh, there's people calling the library saying, you know, misrepresenting it and stuff, but we're just gonna press forward. We're not gonna cower to them. The librarians are really cool and just determined to do this. So but there was like a concern enough apparently, which I thought was a kind of concerning myself. I was like gonna have to travel with the security person because they found it concerning enough that there was gonna be that they needed a police presence there. So I don't know what that was about exactly, but it was just protesters. But one never knows because that was in Bozeman the week before, and there was like 20 white nationalists right outside the door, and we didn't know if they're going to storm in there. And I write about them a lot, so it's like, yeah, it was like the situation's getting pretty hectic or whatever. I don't know, but anyways, so yesterday, 11:15. I know I'm not the most quotable person, but as a journalist, I could just kind of explain things. But 11:15-ish, yeah, um, I get the email and it said, I mean, we're gonna have to cancel the event, and they didn't sound too happy about it. And it was like a short brief, and I was just like, wow, well, that was I just didn't think Butte of all towns would do it. It was like maybe other towns might would cave to that or whatever, but Butte of all places was just like really surprising and shocking. So to me anyway. And then the irony of that is, so I get that email at 11:15, and then their mayor or whatever, they're giving some proclamation for Pride Day like 15 minutes after that. So it was just kind of yeah, very performative, I guess. I don't,
What was your presentation going to be about? I know you said Two-Spirit and Transgender Montana, LGBTQ history in Montana, right? So what does that kind of mean? I mean, can you give the super Cliff Note version? I know that's
okay, yeah.
able to give a much longer presentation. You could kind of give a short and sweet version of it.
Basically, it's how trans two-spirit people have existed in indigenous culture since time immemorial, and how they fit into our cultures, and how colonization tried to eradicate their voices and their presence. Like, yeah, literally tried to genocide them. And here we are in 21st century, trying to silence their voices again. So.
And the author of the bill, State Representative Braxton Mitchell, him and other legislators have called the LGBTQ movement, particularly when it comes to the transgender population. He says it's a fad. Is that, I mean, does that backed up by history, or is you said there's been transgender people, two-spirit people since time immemorial?
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest things. Why this speech is important is it combats such bigotry and ignorance with facts that said, yeah. I mean, I have like there's pictures, there's examples, there's how like one person drew a ledger art drawing how us Northern Cheyenne people, we were like leading the ceremony, the victory dance after the Little Bighorn battlefield. And that's like from 1882. Someone deemed it important enough to draw that, and just stuff like that. And there's also like finds them and kills them. It was a Bada Crow trans woman that was very well respected amongst the Crow. And these are like stories that are passed on, like by not only elders back then, but like people like the late Joe Medicine Crow and stuff. So it's like if you want to tell Joe Medicine Crow that, oh, they're just a fad, it's like I would, rather take these people's words over it. You know.
And a lot of the controversy has come down to a couple of your tweets that were flagged in the complaint. And in those tweets, you say you'd be flamboyantly dressed and that minors may be present. Was that a provocation? What was the reason for those tweets? Was it more a joking kind of matter?
It was just kind of just like mocking the law kind of too. But it was just like, that's something I literally argued against. I mean, look at me now, how I'm dressed. It's very flamboyant for Montana, where people wear Carhartts and stuff. And there I am, just like, and I was just like, yeah, me wearing purple lipstick that's flamboyantly dressed. It's like making fun of the fashion police dress code. But one thing that must be pointed out, I was like one of the second people to testify against Braxton's bill. And what I went up there, it's like I did this little dance, and like, me being a transgender person, that's technically illegal. I said, you're claiming this doesn't target trans people, but yeah, I mean, yeah, that was like one of my first points I made, was like, this is going to target trans people. And a lot of people made that same point. And now we're all saying, well, we told you so. And that's how they write these laws, is very vague. So we know that not going to target some non-LGBTQ person, but they're going to like make it, use it to what do you call that? That's a silence of free speech, but I don't know. There's a constitutional word for it. Um, yeah. Anyway, my brain's frozen.
No worries. I guess did you feel? I mean, and you said those tweets kind of jokingly, but did you feel that you could have been in violation of the law, or do you think that it was either a gray area or you're outside of it?
I just thought it was like a gray area. In fact, I mean, who technically, because and it's like a greater statement against trans people are recognized in Montana. So technically, me not being like able to even change my gender marker, me not being recognized as trans, me being going to be completely eliminated. I mean, it's like I'm technically in drag according to them. So it was just like pointing out the hypocrisy of such silly laws, that are like blatant targeting of people, blatant civil rights violation stuff. So,
And did you have any conversations with the legal counsel for Butte-Silver Bow before they canceled? Did they ask you about the tweets, ask you to clarify, seek any further information to kind of see exactly what would be presented?
no, not at all. It's just like, but at the same time, it's like, what are you gonna do? Cave to some people that are complaining about the groomers, whatever? Of course you're gonna get tweets. And it's like, who did this thing? Someone just like sent me an email, like, this is the person who did it, and they're a known transphobe who had been like, had like write-ups, or I don't know. It was I can't verify any of it, but it's just like, of course, yeah, they had to be like a known transphobe that's just filing these complaints and stuff, and to cave to these people, it's just like a very bad optics on Butte's part. So, but
So
there was like no like no discussion, no nothing. It was just like I was in contact with the organizer of the event basically, and they were like, okay, it's a go, it's a go. There will be police present just in case, and then 2 days later, a day later, whatever, it was just like, oh, we had to cancel it. It was very brief and short. And they weren't happy about it. But he did try calling or someone, JP Gallagher, I think, tried calling yesterday. I don't know what they were trying to say, but I was like literally on my way out the door. It's like, well, this isn't our policy to do this. And I said, well, apparently it is. And I just hung up. So yeah. And I didn't want to really talk to them or whatever, just in case of, because what if I have to file a civil rights violation discrimination lawsuit or something? So they're trying to like give themselves a pass. I don't know, but as a trans activist and stuff, it's like something I have to consider, or I mean, yeah, not a good situation where
I
this could happen. I mean, it's like a whole "I told you so" situation and I just didn't expect it to happen to me, not in Butte of all places. So.
and what you said kind of gave me another question. I mean, how do you plan on responding to this? You mentioned the possibility of filing some sort of complaint. So where are you planning to go forward? And would you possibly be interested in speaking in Butte if they'd have you at a place that's not the library?
Yeah, I've had a couple of offers for venues. I haven't like really had a chance to look into them, but I told the one people, it's like it was like where they hold a writer's residency. I don't know you well, but yeah, that's the one of the places that said they would do it. So, but that's the whole irony of this. Every time they try to ban or cancel something, free speech or a book or whatever, I mean, that's you people are curious, more curious about what's so dangerous about what I'm saying, or what's so dangerous, about this knowledge that they're trying to silence and stuff. They just want people to be ignorant. Like Braxton Mitchell, like literally made a post about, oh, they have cat litter boxes that people are pooping in classrooms, and that's the type of ignorance. He like literally believed that happen, and all because of trans people or something and identifying as cats, and everyone knows it was just like a debunked myth, but that's what the ignorance I have to combat, and I'm up against. So
And speaking of, educating people, I think a lot of people are aware LGBTQ, what that means, but can you tell people about, indigenous communities, what it means to be two-spirit and the history behind that?
two-spirit is just basically, it is an umbrella term. It was invented like 1990, but before that they used a more derogatory term, Berdache, Berdache, and it was just kind of like they just called all the trans people within the tribes two-spirit trans people, but it was just yeah, Berdache. I mean, we had all their words. It's like you can't say every time you're talking about a native person. I mean, I suppose you could, but we're talking about Nodlehe, for Navajo, Yamane for my Cheyenne tribe, Bada, and then Winkte. But you can't list every single one of those every time. So we just kind of say um, two spirit. Or back in the day, they said Berdache until they realized how offensive of a term that was. That I can't even really uh, what do you call it, defied it because it is pretty offensive. So we just moved on to um two spirit, which is a fine, pretty fine umbrella term because a lot of it's like I can't speak for every single tribe, but it's like a mixture of like some tribes believe they were born like my tribe born male bodied but have a soul of a female, so it's kind of combined. It's just stuff like that, and like Nadlahe means one who transforms. So the word trans is literally in it, translated English, just stuff like that. So
Another topic I'd like to move on to, and you mentioned it in one of your interviews yesterday with the Daily Montanan. And when I spoke with one of the librarians, she said they normally get their speakers through Humanities Montana. And it sounds like with you, that was originally the plan, but you ended up not being sponsored by them in the end. Can you speak about that?
yeah, that was my choice. They were actually in Billings. I went and they were having their board meeting. I went and like protested them because they had a one person that's pretty much, I'm not going to mince words, they're a white nationalist. They wrote a really transphobic article, just like with all these um, gross things they wrote about Zoe Zephyr. And, and it was just like he's citing this really bad anti Semitic site that this is where I got my information on Zoe. And everyone knows what that site does is dox people so they can swat them. So, of course, both Zoe and her fiance get swatted, big police calls. And I was just like, you guys have to like, I don't know. I was just kind of waiting for them to come out with a strong statement, but they just kind of defended him, saying, "Oh, we respect all viewpoints," but white nationalism wants to silence me, like literally, like not want me to speak. It's exactly what happened. Yeah, supposed to be speaking right now in Butte, but anyways, yeah, and I just waiting for them to give a point response, and they just kind of defended this guy and just made the excuse, well, he's on the um appointed by the governor. We don't have a choice. It's like, no, you do have a choice. You can speak up or you can resign. So, but if I'm saying that, I mean, I had to say, well, I'm not going to take your money. You can't use me as someone, you know, as the good Indian, the good trans that oh, but we pay off this trans indigenous person. Anyways, yeah, I refused their money after that and just kind of took myself off their speakers bureau. But it is kind of noteworthy to include that this wasn't like people, it was like a Humanities Montana Speakers Bureau lecture I've given lots of times before and stuff. And I've given this, like one of the last time, it was a while ago, it was back in December. I actually gave it to junior high kids and or middle school and high school kids over in Standing Rock Reservation. So it just kind of adjusts the content and language, but it's fairly PG with a lecture. I mean, when I say I'm talking about sexuality in there, it's just in a general broad sense that, well, this guy had a Yamane wife or Winkte wife, Crazy Horse did, or whatever.
Another thing that, or actually, I'll stick on Humanities Montana a bit. Was it just kind of funds for travel and room, or is it more than that?
It was a stipend or whatever. Plus, yeah, and then you get mileage. And then the thing is, I actually had another speaking engagement like next week, so I lost that one too. So it was like, I don't know, we've been like $800 altogether. I added up. I said I just forfeited that. I could barely make rent, but but
Where,
it's like,
sorry,
yeah, it's like an integrity thing. So
where was that other speaking engagement? And did you cancel it, or did Humanities Montana cancel it? Did the venue cancel it?
I contacted them and just said, I'm not doing this through. First of all, I am not doing this through. I'm going to do the engagement, but I'm not going to do it through Humanities Montana. So maybe ask them for a refund because they got to pay them a little bit too, or don't put their slogan on the thing. And I kind of explained why I wasn't doing it through them. But the next one, this is for it's for the uh, who was it with? It's like some conservation part of the government anyway, the federal government. I forget exactly what the Region 7, something, I don't know. No, not Region 7, but it's like sorry, I'm drawing a
State
blank.
government or federal government?
It's a federal government. It's just like not like a diverse, I don't know, yeah, they just wanted me to give this a speech and just talk about my own experience a little just to help educate. Yeah, I think they might deal with like the archaeologists and stuff. I'm not sure, but it's going to be a lot of people, but it's online. So
And that one's been canceled, or that one is still going
that
on?
one's still ongoing. Yeah, I believe that's on the 7th. It's like Thursdays.
And the one that was canceled, you said, did you know where that, like, what city that one was supposed to be in?
There's none that are canceled.
Okay, gotcha. Or was there, because you said that there was another
It
event?
was canceled, but there's another event
Okay,
that's not canceled yet.
got it.
As as far as but I am seriously gonna doubt they're gonna cancel it. It would be they know them of all people, they would know it's a federal civil rights violation. Never. I mean, but it's
What's been the response from people? I know you said your phone's kind of blown up with people requesting interviews or maybe seeking comment. What's been the in general, like not the consensus, but what have been kind of the things that you've been hearing from people?
Butte seems the regular average Butte person seems very upset by this. And it's kind of like you try to silence someone like they did for Zoe, just or any like ban a book or something, you really amplify their voice and stuff. So I'm like have to like look at the silver lining of this. It's like, well, I can redo this speech and get this message out more, combat this ignorance and bigotry and stuff. But I've been like yeah, overwhelmed with positive support from the community of Butte. And then of course there's always I'll always read the comments, even though it's the least advisable thing to do as a trans person. But I have to get in there and it's the only argument, well, there shouldn't have been a grooming event. Grooming, and it's like, really, is that your only defense? Or you want to suppress free speech? It's free speech wires, despite throwing around the word groomer, whatever. It's kind of an old tired tactic, and I think people are seeing right through it. They're just like rolling their eyes. I mean, they've been rolling their eyes at it for a while, but yeah, basically the whole, well, we told you they're probably going to use this against trans people, or they technically could. For me being flamboyantly dressed, whatever that means. So it's like,
And when you say flamboyantly dressed, were you basically gonna go as you're dressed now?
yeah, this was like literally my outfit picked out. So
And you spoke when in that interview with the Daily Montana, and you said you want to continue working on trying to eliminate this law. How do you plan on doing that? I know you've said you spoke out against it during testimony, and you're obviously speaking out against it right now. How do you plan on continuing to try to eliminate this law?
um, I mean, someone has been involved in, well, I was actually involved in a libel lawsuit, but I was kind of suing someone else for libel. So I was kind of hesitant to get involved in more lawsuits, but at the same time, it's like, I'm pretty sure there's going to be someone, I think, I can't say it on the record, but maybe Upper Seven Law is going to challenge the drag law. I'm pretty sure this is going to give them a good case or throw it in there. And if they say, we want to use this, I'll say yes. So anyone who's like, yeah, any free speech type things, I will side with it. So this is a prime example of what we said was going to happen. So, and it's sad that so many of these cases have to get solved in the courts instead of just like at the legislature. If they would only listen that this is unconstitutional, but it's all performative to them. So,
And how actually does this cancellation align with your presentation? Do you believe it does? Is there a history of LGBTQ2S people being kicked out of spaces or being told they can't do something?
oh yeah, I mean that's kind of like I talk about how they were celebrated in cultures, and then like how the basically missionaries and stuff came over and would Judeo-Christianity. I'm not saying not all Christians, but because there was some good stories even in between there, but how it was really drilled out of them, the boarding schools, like how they found the trans kid that the other kids were hiding. They just found out that this kid was like biologically male after they're scrubbing down after a lice outbreak or something, and they just like made a big scene and big fuss. And the cousin who's telling the story is just like still terrified telling the story. It's like, I never saw my cousin again. So it's just like they like literally just scared it out of them, and just like, and they would coming out of those boarding school traumatized. No, you don't talk about trans people. So just like kind of like brainwashed it out of them that being nice to these people was bad. And I just wanted to combat that. Combat that. 'Cause I hate being okay. Let me say this. To hate trans people, to hate Two-Spirit is to hate part of your own culture, your own Native American culture, tribe. So, but it also ties in just a general history of why did Stonewall start? Why are we having Pride Month? Well, it's because they were arresting people for masquerade laws. They're wearing too many items of female clothing, so they would arrest them for these charges. And they finally got fed up, and yeah, then had the Stonewall riots. I'm not saying riot, but but it's hard to not see that parallel there. So
And in one of those tweets, basically, trying to find the wording here, you basically called Montana a fascist red state. That word was used actually during the Rules Committee hearing, the first one regarding Representative Zephyr, by I believe Representative Stuart Paraguay, and immediately pushed back on by other legislators. What makes you believe that actions like these are fascist?
well, we just define fascism. It's like, well, it's very far right, very authoritarian, and then it's like, okay, what's one of the first things the Nazis did when they took over? That huge book burning they had. That's where they went to the Berlin Institute of Sexology gathered like 20,000 documents and books out of there. And there was like the first person with transgender surgery there. They got disappeared. But anyways, all those big book burning pictures you see of Nazi Germany, that was their burning all these, mostly all them trans book and all this degenerate art. And that's what, yeah. Then you see just their whole wording and stuff in general. It's like they always say, oh, it's cultural Marxism. Well, that's another offshoot of what the Nazis called cultural Bolshevism. Just there's all these direct like parallels. And then like one of the people that are writing a bill on behalf of his name was Pastor Brandon Huber. He was like literally holding a book burning back in October, and then you had all these like people writing a bill on his behalf. So it's like, yeah, I mean, there's tons of examples I could give why they're fascist, but it's like very authoritarian, very finding an enemy, finding the 21st century Uden, which seems to be the trans people. I'm not, hopefully that's not offensive, but it's like, yeah, they need to find this enemy, and it's like a fascism is like an accelerationist ideology, which means like it's not gonna just okay, we just want to not do trans women in sports. That's the concern. That's their foot in the door. They're never going to be satisfied with that. They're going to go after health care or go after this and like a racist legally. And then like even in Florida, now they adults can't even get their medications now. It has to keep rolling forward stuff. And that's yeah, basically doing the definition of fascism and like yeah, how much time do you have now?
Um, so I guess just to close, is there anything else you want to cover or you would like to talk about before I let you go?
um Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate, it's like this is why we had Pride Month. It's because the whole they were targeting people who they thought were who they didn't like the way they were dressed or whatever. So to see that direct parallel, especially in the hindsight of them silencing Zoe Zephyr, it's just like, yeah, then someone just trying to teach history and stuff, and then I'm getting called a groomer and pedophile. It's just like people, yeah, I mean, hopefully this exposes a lot of the ignorance and also helps get these laws overturned. So